Tonight we debate 8 Spider-Man movies. Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Debate 8. And tonight we are doing your favorite web slinger. That's right, the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And we're doing 8 Spider-Man movies tonight. Guys, I know everybody loves Spider-Man. He's a childhood favorite. He's an adult favorite. He's all of our favorites, absolutely. And tonight we're going to debate his 8 best movies. That's right. We're doing 7 live action, 1 animated. A lot of these movies are really good. Some of them are not so good, but we'll get to that later on and we'll see what you guys think and our guests, what they think. But yes, before we get started, just one peek behind the curtain. Tonight is the last night of Debate 8 for 2 weeks. We're going to be off next week. We won't be here. Taking a week off next week. Basically, my daughter, Fanjecture, starts full online school next week, and I literally have no idea what that means. So next week, we're going to figure out exactly what life is like, but then we will be back in 2 weeks with another great episode for you, okay? So there you go. Get that out of the way. I'll remind everyone once everyone gets in here later. But tonight, forget about that. Forget about all that stuff. We're doing Spider-Man, and you guys are going to vote live. You're going to determine which is the best Spider-Man movie, and to help us decide, I have 2 guests, 2 newcomers to the show. Lord help them, they have no idea what they're getting themselves into. My friends Gavin and Noah. Gavin and Noah, welcome to the show. Gavin, we'll start with you. How are you tonight? How is Spider-Man for you? What does Spider-Man mean to Gavin?
Oh God, that's a loaded question. For my age, you wouldn't guess it, but I started out with like the Silver Age 60s comics.
Oh, so you go way back.
So like I'm dating way before my time on that one. People expect me all the time to be a fan of like the newer stuff, which it's hit or miss, but I like the more classic take on the character.
All right, already throwing jabs at the MCU. All right, Gavin, not making friends really. And we got Neat on the Rocks. Neat on the Rocks, how are you this evening? Spider-Man for you. What does the character mean to Neat?
Well, I have been watching Spider-Man for literally as long as I can remember, because the Raimi trilogy was brand spanking new when I was a little chillin'. Yeah. So I've always thought of myself as the real life Peter Parker. So the character is very near and dear to my heart. And I think I'm gonna get my heart broken tonight.
Guys, I did warn them, since this is first time, I did warn them how the chat is a lovely bunch of people who sometimes votes just because they feel like they want to see us cry inside. So maybe that won't happen tonight. We'll find out. But let's see the 8 movies that we are going to be debating tonight. The first matchup will be the number 1 seed Into the Spider-Verse going up against the number 8 seed Spider-Man 3. Second matchup will be the number 4 seed Spider-Man, the original, the Sam Raimi, going up against the number 5 seed Spider-Man Far From Home. Third matchup will be the number 3 seed Spider-Man Homecoming going up against the number 6 seed of The Amazing Spider-Man. And rounding out the first round will be the number 2 seed Spider-Man 2 going up against the 7 seed The Amazing Spider-Man 2. So we got a couple nice matchups up there, and we are going to start with the number 1, the number 8 seed Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and Spider-Man 3. Gavin, you get the honor of going first, sir. I'm going to put 2 minutes on the clock for you. How do you feel about these 2 movies, and which one should move on?
Man, this one, it's a little hard for me because I do have a soft spot for all the Raimi movies, even this one. As much as people hate on the dancing scene and the emo Peter stuff, I love it. I think it's exactly what that version of Peter would think is cool. It's more or less like the 60s version getting the symbiote and becoming an emo kid, and it's great. But Spider-Verse is just a better made movie. It's the arc of Miles in that movie versus the arc of Peter in Spider-Man 3 is just a lot more what's the word? I guess likable, or not likable, but anyway, it's just a better movie all around. The characterization of his friends and the other Spider people is much better than honestly either of the two side characters in Spider-Man 3. By that I'm talking about MJ and Harry. I guess you can consider his friend still in that one. But it's just, I don't know, man. Into the Spider-Verse hit me harder than I expected to emotionally when I saw it in theaters, especially near the end. And I never would have expected Nick Miller from New Girl to make a good Peter Parker, but he killed it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I got to say, I am leaning towards you right now. Noah, I want to see what you have to say. So I'm going to put 2 minutes on the clock for you. Which way are you leaning? Into the Spider-Verse, Spider-Man 3?
Well, I definitely have a soft spot for Spider-Man 3. Venom is probably my number one Spider-Man villain of all time. But Sony had a lot to prove with Into the Spider-Verse, and I think they knocked it out of the park. They proved that a non-MCU Spider-Man film could work in the age of the MCU. They proved that an animated Spider-Man movie could work in the age of the MCU, and they proved that a Spider-Man movie that doesn't focus on Peter Parker, despite my love for the character, could work. And it was a 10 out of 10, I think. It was one of the best superhero movies I've ever seen. And it's one of the best animated movies I've ever seen, and they absolutely killed the characterization with all the characters. They put a great spin on the classic Spider-Man themes, and I think it's one of the better Spider-Man movies there are. And Spider-Man 3 just doesn't quite do the same thing for me. I think there's a lot of great stuff in there. I appreciate that it's kind of becoming a cult favorite among Spider-Man fans and among classic Spider-Man fans, but I just don't think it's definitely, I feel, the weakest of the three original movies, and I don't think it holds up to Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, I'm totally with both of you. Let's see what the people have to say, though. All right, hold on. Fingers crossed. Okay, I think I did it. I think I fixed it. I did. Okay. If this is your first time, what we do is we vote live in the chat, and you get to decide which one moves on. If you want to vote for Into the Spider-Verse, do exclamation vote 1 in the chat. There is a space in between the word vote and the number. If you want to vote for Spider-Man 3, do exclamation vote 8 in the chat. Yeah, I mean, this is, for me personally, it's a no-brainer. It's Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I think I might have some competition later on. There are some other movies that I actually like a little bit better than this movie. But in this matchup, it's a clear winner. I mean, I cannot, with a good conscience, vote for a movie to move on with Topher Grace as the bad guy. And it's nothing like personally against Topher Grace. I think he's fine, but like he was not believable as a bad guy at all. He was goofy and like corny the whole entire time, just like he was Eric Foreman, like just wearing a symbiote suit. Like I just couldn't handle it. I just couldn't do it. Like and I'm sorry, the dancing scene was ridiculous. Like I know it gets a lot of hate, but sometimes I feel like it's deserved. Yeah, no, Topher. Oh, man. No, Topher.
I mean, to be fair, even in the Venom suit, he still looks almost smaller than Peter in the Spider-Man suit.
Yeah,
he should
exactly.
Be like 3 times his size.
And especially with the new Venom movie, like it just puts this to shame, like for sure. Like that was a fun romp. I really enjoyed that, the new Venom movie. I'm looking forward to the second one. And this one, if I never see Spider-Man 3 again, I will not lose a wink of sleep. So, and obviously a lot of you agree. 71% of the vote going Into the Spider-Verse. Noah, not as high as I thought it would be. Do you think this possibly has some trouble down the road?
Probably not. I think Spider-Verse is going to go far. I think people just have a soft spot for Spider-Man 3, and there are probably some boomers in the chat that don't appreciate new Spider-Man, and so
there might be some boomers out there, but that's nonetheless. All right, let's move on to the next one. The number 4 seed of Spider-Man going up against the number 5 seed of Far From Home. Man, the 4 and 5 seed typically is a very tough one in the first round. No, we're going to start with you. I'm going to put 2 minutes on the clock. How do you feel about these two films, and which one do you think should move on?
So I think I'm going to get beat out here. but I think I've got to go with Far From Home. I have a lot of appreciation for the original Spider-Man. It's one of the better Spider-Man films on this list, but Far From Home is in my top 3 because I think it does a lot of fresh things with the Spider-Man character, even with sticking to Peter Parker. And there's a lot going on in Far From Home. They bring a very interesting new villain into the mix with Mysterio. Jake Gyllenhaal absolutely knocks it out of the park. They do a really, really, really cool spin on the "with great power comes great responsibility" themes that I don't think it gets enough attention in that regard. And it's a great MCU movie as well. It fits perfectly in the MCU and shows that post Infinity War, post Endgame MCU movies are still going to be great and fantastic and tell interesting stories. So while the very first Spider-Man movie has some great stuff, it has a great Peter Parker story, it has a great Uncle Ben, it has a great Green Goblin. I feel like it's held back by some plot threads that weren't really followed through on to their fullest extent. Green Goblin at some point is like, join me, and Peter says no, and it's just kind of really, really weak part of the storyline. It's very, very campy in ways that attribute to its greatness, and some ways not so much, and CGI is really dated. It's got a lot of charm, but I don't think it holds a candle to Far From Home.
Yeah, good points. Very, very good points. I'll get to some of those points in a minute. All right. Gavin, we're going to switch it over to you. 2 minutes on the clock for you. Which one do you have moving on, Spider-Man or Far From Home?
This one isn't even really tough for me. I mean, the original Spider-Man is, in my opinion, the better of these two movies. I'll admit, my initial viewing of Far From Home, I walked out of the theater pretty excited, but the more I thought about it, the more it just got brought down for me. I just rewatched almost all of these recently, in the past month or so, but more recently the Raimi trilogy, and it doesn't even come close to this one if you compare Far From Home. The whole fact that Peter is so quick to give up his identity in Far From Home, even to someone he just met in the middle of a bar, not the best plot choice in my opinion. But I mean, Spider-Man 1, it's just classic. Without it, there wouldn't probably be an MCU, at least to the extent that there is now. Spider-Man and X-Men really kind of kicked off modern superhero movies, and I just don't think we would have any of the ones we have today without it. The Bonesaw wrestling match is one of the best superhero origins, in my opinion, and I just love this movie. James Franco was a little iffy as Harry Osborn, but I like James Franco enough that I could look past it. But yeah, Spider-Man 1 all the way for me.
Interesting. So we are split on the panel. I love it. Okay, let's see what the people have to say. Like I said, 4 and 5s are the toughest. I think this is going to be a tight race. I was watching the chat, and I gotta say, people were going back and forth on which one they were deciding on. But now it is time to vote. If you want to vote for Spider-Man, do exclamation vote 4 in the chat. If you want to do Far From Home, exclamation vote 5. I'm really torn, guys. I'm really torn. One, you both made some really good points. And I actually was going into this particular one, like really wanting to like base my decision on your arguments, because I'm torn. Like, Spider-Man 1 is such a classic movie from a nostalgia point. I mean, when that movie first came out and we saw that first trailer and we saw a CGI Spider-Man, it blew everyone's mind. Like, it was unbelievable. And when we all saw that movie for the first time, it was unbelievable. It does not hold up at all. Oh my God. I went back to watch this movie. It is so bad. Like, I hate to say it, but it doesn't hold up. Like, the story is bad. The acting is bad. The special effects are horrible, and they look like everything was shot on a soundstage. Like, I'm torn. I'm so torn because I think I like it more. I am going to vote for Spider-Man. I think the nostalgia is winning me over. And look, I'll be honest. Tom Holland is my favorite Spider-Man. which might give away one of my favorite movies like coming on down the road. But Far From Home, I walked out of thinking it was good. It wasn't great. So for that reason and for nostalgia reasons, I think I'm going to go Spider-Man. And I think that people are slightly with me on this one, and with Gavin, because with 57% of the vote, Spider-Man is moving on. No, I saw a lot of faces from you. You seem shocked that I went Spider-Man.
Yeah, you were like, man, this movie's total crap, but I gotta vote for it.
I know. I feel like almost obligated. Like I'm a terrible film fanatic if I don't vote for the one that like pushed it forward. Especially because I'm not like, if I loved Far From Home, I think that'd be a different story. I think I could make an argument for myself, but.
They're both in my top 4 favorite Spider-Man movies. So
yeah, I mean, when we're talking with 8 of them and 2 of them are the Amazing series, like, yeah, I mean, of course, like. But let's get to that right now, because now we have the number 3 seed Homecoming going up against the number 6 seed of the Amazing Spider-Man. Gavin, we're going to start with you on this one. 2 minutes on the clock. First Tom Holland one and first Andrew Garfield one. Which one are you going with on this?
This might surprise a lot of people, but I'm going with the Amazing Spider-Man on this one. I like Homecoming more than Far From Home for sure, but I mean, it's just that it relied too much on Tony Stark for me, and I know this is a complaint that a lot of people post online, and you've probably heard to death, that he's not really a good replacement for Uncle Ben in these movies, I don't think. And yeah, the Amazing Spider-Man, I just like the performances better. I like the actors better, minus Robert Downey Jr. Even though he isn't a good replacement, I do like him. But Andrew Garfield just fit the character better to me. And first of all, I'm not really a big fan of Spider-Man in high school that much. I always liked the older comics when he was in college or had a job as a scientist or a professor, whatever he was doing at the time. So the fact that this barely touched on him being in school, it wasn't the big focus of this movie, I was okay with that. And I mean, later on, he doesn't really focus on school at all. So I just like Andrew Garfield. I think he's better. And the chemistry between him and Emma Stone was so much better than Tom Holland and Zendaya. That sold it for me.
Gotcha. Yeah, I will say this, and we'll get to it in a little bit. Andrew Garfield, I thought he was a great Spider-Man. I thought he got shortchanged for sure. He didn't get the best scripts. So he's a great actor who didn't necessarily get the long end of the stick, as they say. Oh, do they say that? I don't think they do. But let's throw 2 minutes on the clock. Noah, I'm going to throw it to you. Which one are you voting for to move on to the next round?
So I will be voting for Homecoming, which I think is the better movie. The Amazing Spider-Man does have some redeeming qualities. Like Gavin said, Emma Stone and Andrew Garfield are probably the best on-screen romance we've ever seen from a Spider-Man film, TV show, anything. The Lizard, probably the weakest villain in any Spider-Man movie, like even weaker than Venom to me. And the plot isn't compelling. Peter's way too cool. I do actually have a soft spot for Andrew Garfield in general, but Peter's way too cool in this movie, way too cool. And then when he becomes Spider-Man, he's like filled with like he's just kind of a dick, and it doesn't really work. And I know that's kind of some hot takes attribute that to be a more classic take on the character, but it just doesn't do. It's just not the modern Peter Parker for me. Homecoming does a lot of great things. Vulture, one of the best on-screen villains. Michael Keaton absolutely kills it. Watching Batman in a Spider-Man movie was a little weird, but other than that, he absolutely kills it. And I think Peter does a lot of cool things. I like the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man take. And I think that a lot of people say that a Spider-Man movie without Uncle Ben doesn't really work. But I actually like the take here where they were kind of put in the Tony Stark as the father figure. I think it works. And people say that this movie, that Homecoming, focuses too much on Tony Stark. I don't agree. I think he's in it just kind of the perfect amount. And I think all the actors do a 10 out of 10 job. And I think it's a fantastic Spider-Man movie with some great classic Spider-Man themes in it.
You know, Noah, I knew I liked you for a reason. I am totally with you on this one. I can't wait to see what people have to say, though. Let's start the poll. If you want to vote for Homecoming, do exclamation vote 3 in the chat. If you want to vote for The Amazing Spider-Man, exclamation vote 6. Look, I really do believe Homecoming's probably going to win. So I'm gonna give a little bit of love here for The Amazing Spider-Man. Just because I have a lot to say about Homecoming, but I really truly believe it's gonna win. So I have a lot to say to shock people on this. What I'll say about The Amazing Spider-Man is that it was a nice fresh take after Spider-Man 3. Which is one of the worst Spider-Man movies I've ever seen in my life. So going from Spider-Man 3 to The Amazing Spider-Man, I guess maybe we all had rose-colored glasses on, and maybe we were a little bit more forgiving for that movie because I just, it was so different, and I really enjoyed it. I actually, for this one, and maybe we'll talk about it for Amazing Spider-Man 2, but I felt that Andrew Garfield was the best Spider-Man that he was in this movie versus the other one. He actually kind of played it like very differently, and I really enjoyed his performance in this one versus Amazing Spider-Man 2. Homecoming is one of my favorite movies, superhero movies, let alone Spider-Man movies. And because it's winning, I'm going to save what I am going to save probably for next round because I don't think it's going to make it past the next round. So I'll save it for next round. But time is up. 67% of the vote is going to Homecoming. Gavin, not having a good night tonight so far.
I mean,
getting beat down.
Honestly, shocked the Amazing Spider-Man got as many votes as it did. Honestly,
well, somebody asked me earlier today what was my dark horse for the bracket, and I said The Amazing Spider-Man 1. Not that I thought it was going to win, but I said if there was a 5, 6, 7, 8 seed that I thought could actually make it, I thought it was this one, and so I'm not necessarily super surprised. But then again, if it had beat Homecoming, I would have been completely shocked. So there you go. Homecoming, moving on. So far, we've gone 1, 4, and 3. We've gone chalk. Let's see if we go chalk again with this next one. The number 2 seed, Spider-Man 2, going up against the number 7 seed of The Amazing Spider-Man 2. I'm assuming neither of you are going to need 2 minutes, but I'll put 2 minutes on the clock for you, Noah. We'll start with you. Which one of these 2 movies named Spider-Man 2 is moving on to the next round?
Well, unless chat completely decides to troll us, I don't think there's really a question. I think Spider-Man 2 is very clearly the better movie. I think a lot of people really love that movie. I think still a lot of people go to it as their absolute favorite Spider-Man movie. The Amazing Spider-Man 2, I do actually have, compared to The Amazing Spider-Man 1, which is my least favorite Spider-Man movie, I actually have a lot of love for The Amazing Spider-Man 2. I think there's a lot to love. I think there's a good movie underneath a lot of garbage that they packed into the way too long runtime. I think the romance is at its best with Peter and Gwen. I think the ending is super, super compelling. I think the fight scenes and the effects are 10 out of 10. But everything else about the movie, not so great, and a lot of garbage and a lot of cheese that doesn't work, and just an unsatisfying end to Andrew Garfield's take. Meanwhile, Spider-Man 2, I have a feeling I'm going to have a lot of time to talk about this movie, but I'll just say best on-screen villain, best on-screen performances, best themes of any Spider-Man movie. It's just one of my favorite movies of all time. So it's definitely Spider-Man 2 for me.
Okay. I kind of figured you were going to go that way. But a lot of love you gave for Amazing Spider-Man. So that's good as well. So let's reset the clock. Gavin, we go to you. What do you want to say about how Spider-Man 2 is moving on to the next round?
I mean, I kind of saw this coming from the beginning. This is in my top 5 movies of all time, let alone just superhero movies. So I'm glad that other people enjoy it, obviously. So hopefully this actually makes it past this. But I don't have as much love for The Amazing Spider-Man 2, but I do like some aspects. The fact that they actually went for the death of Gwen Stacy storyline was really interesting. I'm glad someone actually tried to put it in a movie, and it actually worked for me. But I read up that they were going to try to bring her back in the 3rd movie with time travel or something, so I who knows if they would have just erased everything. But I do like Mark Webb as a director. 500 Days of Summer is another one of my favorite movies of all time. So the fact that he actually made a Spider-Man movie is good enough for me. But Spider-Man 2, there's not enough I could say about this movie. It's my favorite superhero movie of all time. It's the best, I think, adaptation on screen we've seen of the character so far. And there is a little bit of touch and go there with him and MJ. They don't have the best chemistry, but I that doesn't really bother me because I mean they're not really a couple for any of the movie, so that doesn't really bother me that much. Doc Ock, Alfred Molina as Doc Ock, he's one of the best parts of that movie. The train scene, of course, is my favorite action scene of all time in a superhero movie. The ending felt a little odd, though. I feel like there was a way to sort of have Otto redeem himself without suicide, but it also sort of worked with the tone that they were going for throughout that movie. I just love that movie way too much.
Yeah, I mean, no shocks here, I think. Everyone leaning heavy Spider-Man 2. Let's start the poll. Let's get this over with. Let's give Amazing Spider-Man 2 a quick death here. If you want to vote for Spider-Man 2, do exclamation vote 2 in the chat. If for some reason you want to vote Amazing Spider-Man 2, you can also do exclamation vote 7 in the chat. I see we at least have one vote, so it's not going to be a complete blowout. I'm definitely going Spider-Man 2. I gotta say, I don't know what's worse, Amazing Spider-Man 2 or Spider-Man 3. Two of the worst Spider-Man movies I've ever seen in my life. Electro, hands down, one of the worst villains ever put on screen. It made me question whether Jamie Foxx was a good actor or not. And I know he is, but like, I just couldn't imagine what was going on set during that movie. Like, it was so terrible. And I gotta say, the whole Gwen Stacy scene when she dies, it didn't hit me, and I think it's just, I think that's a personal thing because I think I knew too much. I knew too much about Spider-Man in general and storylines and comics and everything. So like, I knew it was coming. It was sort of my problem that I had with Joker 2 with the end scene. I knew that was coming because I'm aware of things. So so that didn't hit me either. So I think that's a personal problem. But so that didn't really do it for me. And I don't know. I didn't like Andrew Garfield and a lot of the scenes between Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone because I could tell that they were improvised, and Andrew Garfield is a terrible improvisation or actor. Emma Stone was fine. Andrew Garfield needs a script. He's a great actor. Social Network, one of his best performances. But the guy can't improv to save his life. So terrible, absolutely terrible. 77% of the vote going to Spider-Man 2. Not a big blowout. I'm a little surprised, but every now and then it's very tough to get a 100% on this show, and neither of them did that. None of these movies did that. But I gotta say, let's go to the bracket. 1, 2, 3, 4. I kind of had a feeling it was gonna go this way. But from this point on, I don't know how it's going to shape out. We have two excellent matches, so let's jump into it. The number 1 overall seed, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, going up against the number 4 seed of Spider-Man. And Gavin, I'm going to put 90 seconds on the clock this time for you. You're going first. Which one of these are you going to suggest move on to the next round?
This one's a little harder for me to choose. I think I'm gonna have to go with Spider-Verse on this one. As much as I love the original Spider-Man and the trilogy as a whole, Spider-Verse was just a better movie. It was more emotionally impactful, I think. And the fact that they really honed in on the anyone can be wearing the mask aspect of the character really worked. It was just a better movie. I mean, I don't think this is that much of a hot take or a hot take at all, really. I've seen a lot of love for Spider-Verse, and it definitely is well deserved. It's one of the best animated movies I've seen probably ever. And just the animation style, the soundtrack, the actors alone in the movie, the fact that they even put in lesser known characters like Spider-Man Noir that people probably don't even know if they don't read comics, and people enjoyed it, is kind of insane. Nicolas Cage, I mean, they got Ghost Rider to play Spider-Man, so clearly he's good at something. Yeah, Spider-Verse is the clear winner here for me.
All right, Spider-Verse for you. Let's restart the clock for Noah. 90 seconds on the clock for you. Which way are you going? Into the Spider-Verse or Spider-Man?
Well, I think for this matchup, everything I said about both of these movies is still pretty true. Both of these movies, I think, really revolutionized movies when it comes to superhero movies. I think Spider-Man, this Spider-Man over here, really changed the way we looked at superhero movies. But we're in the age of superhero movies, and I think Into the Spider-Verse is reinventing the way we look at superhero movies, and I think that impact might be even bigger. Because I think without Spider-Man, we would still have classics like X-Men, and then we would get DC coming in with the Batman trilogy. But with Into the Spider-Verse, I think we're going to start seeing animated superhero movies actually succeed. And I think that when you're measuring them on impact, I give it to Spider-Verse. And then, of course, in quality of movie, I think original Spider-Man is campy and dated, and Into the Spider-Verse is one of the most artistic animated movies ever made. So it's a clear winner to me.
All right. Yeah. Ooh, it's a tough one for me because I said the nostalgia factor, but I'd be lying to myself if I went and trashed it the last round and then went and voted it for this round against Into the Spider-Verse. So I think I'm leaning Into the Spider-Verse as well. But let's see what the people have to say. If you want to vote for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse to make it to the finals, exclamation vote 1. If you want Spider-Man the original to make it to the finals, exclamation vote 4. It's going back and forth. Spider-Man with an early lead, but Into the Spider-Verse taking it over. I mean, we're talking about an Oscar winner here. You know, we're talking about a movie that, for me personally, when I saw the trailers, I was extremely intrigued, but very worried about the animation style. Something about like a 2-minute clip, or clips cut together. You don't really get to like put yourself into the world and sort of like feel what the animation is like presenting to you. So I was very nervous going into it, but at the end of it, like I'm like you guys, man, it was emotional. I know Gavin, last round you said like it hit you like emotionally. I'm right there with you, man. But the father-son relationship is one that, like, because I have a son, like I know that's building in me. So like that hit me really hard as well. And also, being a boomer and like realizing like what your life is as a boomer, which Spider-Man was as well. So that kind of hit me as too. So a lot of deep levels this movie had. So that's why I am voting for Into the Spider-Verse. And look, 60 or so, we'll round, let's round up for this one. 70% of the vote for Into the Spider-Verse. Not a whole lot of love for Spider-Man. I'll be honest, I'm not really surprised. This number 1 seed was a powerhouse in the pre-voting. So here we go. That's making it to the finals. Okay. Whew. This is the big one. This is the big one for the second round. I wasn't really convinced Spider-Man was going to make it last round. This one, number 3 seed, Homecoming, going up against the number 2 seed of Spider-Man 2. Okay, the gloves are off for this one. Noah, we're going with you. 90 seconds on the clock. Which of these 2 films are you going to go with?
Homecoming is a great movie, but Spider-Man 2 deserves every bit of praise that it gets. And Homecoming does a lot of cool stuff. It introduces Vulture. It's an MCU movie. It proved that an MCU Spider-Man movie could work. But Spider-Man 2 is just thematically one of the strongest superhero movies to ever come about, I think. The themes of the evolution of the themes, not just incorporation of great power comes great responsibility into with great responsibility comes great power, and making sacrifices in the name of selflessness. I think it's just one of the strongest movies on this list. And I don't see a reason why Homecoming could beat it out. I think the relationships that Peter has during the movie are far stronger in Spider-Man 2. The humor lands every single time. It has some of the most memorable scenes, moments, the bank robbery with Doc Ock, the train scene, of course, the ending, the introduction of the villain, the pizza delivery, everything about Spider-Man 2 is a knock out of the park, and Homecoming being a great movie just doesn't compare.
Okay. All right. So going with Spider-Man 2. Let's go to you, Gavin. 90 seconds on the clock for you. Which one do you think should move on to the finals next round?
Yeah, this one isn't even hard for me at all. Spider-Man 2 is the better of the two movies here. I mean, Spider-Man Homecoming, like Noah said, I do like the Vulture. That was cool. Michael Keaton is a great actor, so it was fun to see him again in a superhero film. But I like Spider-Man better in Civil War than in either of his two solo films, honestly. I feel like the Russos handle him much better than John Watts, who I'm sure people already know studied John Hughes high school movies instead of actual Spider-Man material for this movie, and he wanted to make a high school comedy as opposed to an actual Spider-Man story, which I don't hate Homecoming. I actually enjoy it, but Spider-Man 2 is the better movie here. It just, I don't even know. There's so much I could say. My mind is going a mile a minute, but this movie is incredible. Peter and MJ are much better in this movie than in Homecoming. I like the sort of little nods you get to the other MCU characters, like Captain America being in the little gym videos in Homecoming, but I just don't like that they try to force too much of the MCU into it at once by making another villain for Peter be linked back to Stark. They did that in both of his movies, and it just doesn't work for me. But Spider-Man 2 is perfect.
All right. Perfect Spider-Man 2. Noah also going Spider-Man 2. Let's see what the people have to say. And while that's happening, I'm going to give you my opinion. Okay. Look, this may be a very controversial opinion, but Spider-Man Homecoming is my favorite Spider-Man movie. Hands down, it's my favorite. I know it gets a lot of hate. It's absolutely my favorite. In fact, it was my favorite. Of a Spider-Man. It was my favorite superhero movie of that year. Okay, it's not even like I think it's the best movie. Look, we're talking Justice League, Guardians 2, Thor Ragnarok, Wonder Woman, the Lego Batman movie, and Logan, okay? Look, I know Logan's a better movie, but Spider-Man Homecoming was my favorite movie of that year, hands down. I know that it's not going to win, but I have to give this movie love. Tom Holland is the best Spider-Man. He nails the character. I'm sorry, Tobey Maguire is a 80-year-old playing a 13-year-old, and it's so freaking stupid. I hate it. He's not even a good actor. It's ridiculous. I cannot stand the fact that Spider-Man 2 is moving on. And I don't hate the movie. I really don't. I just think that Homecoming is better. Man, and it makes me so sad that all you people in the chat are so wrong, and you have no idea what you're doing. You're voting the wrong movie through, but that's okay. I still love you. I still love all of you. Look, it's fine. It's a good movie. It's fine. Spider-Man 2 is a classic. I mean, what are we going to do? All right, guys? You guys are both right. I'm wrong. I understand that. But Spider-Man Homecoming is so good. Okay, now that I got that out of my system. 71% of the vote. Crushed it here. Man, these are basically Into the Spider-Verse got 70%. Spider-Man 2 got 71%. Guys, we're going into the next round. I don't know who's going to win. If you had to pick, all right, well, no, that's the whole point of the show is to ask you what you think is going on. So I'm not going to ask you right now. I was about to totally spoil exactly what the damn show is. I'll say this, Gavin, are you surprised? Are you surprised that Homecoming didn't get any, as much love as I clearly am saying that it deserves? And say the right answer.
No.
Okay,
no,
you're done.
Really
No, stop it. I don't want to hear you. Noah, I'm gonna ask you the same question. Should Homecoming have gotten more love than it did?
In a different bracket, I think Homecoming would have made it to the finals, but I think it's inevitable that it would have lost to Spider-Man 2. All
right, and Noah will be running as a politician soon. Thank you. Very good answer. All right, we made it to the finals. before we do, just a quick backlot note here. I said at the beginning of the show, I just wanted a quick reminder, there will be no show next week, taking a week off. Fanjecture has all full online schooling starting next week. I have no idea what that means for me and my family and life and streaming, but so we're taking 1 week off. We'll be back the following week, so don't worry. You still get to come in, you still get to vote, do the whole thing, but we're taking next week off. Check Twitter. I'll have some announcements on Twitter, but there you go. There's my reminder for you that don't show up next week. There's not going to be a show. All right, so don't show up. But let's talk about this finals. Number 1, Into the Spider-Verse, going up against the number 2 seed, Spider-Man 2. Okay, look, we 1 versus 2 seed. I'm not like super surprised, but I am happy because both of these are really good movies. So let's figure out which one is going to win the night. Gavin, we're going to start with you. I got 60 seconds on the clock this time. In 1 minute, tell me which movie needs to win.
Spider-Man 2 is my pick 100% here. I love both of these movies, and like you said, I'm really not surprised that it comes down to these two in the finals. But Spider-Man 2 is just that, like, it's classic to me. It's the one I've rewatched the most. It's the one I put on when I'm bored and just have in the background as I'm working on the computer or doing other stuff. I can quote this movie more than most movies out there, and I know it's a little sad, but I just love this movie so much. Tobey Maguire is a good actor. Peter Parker is probably his best role, but this movie just doesn't even have a weak point for me that I could think of. I love everything about it. The pizza scene at the beginning is great. And by the way, I found out way too late that was Zooey Deschanel's sister in the lobby at the beginning. Glad I know that now. That makes it even funnier.
Bones.
Spider-Man 2 is the winner.
It's Bones.
Yeah. It took me until the other day to figure that out too.
All right. So going Spider-Man 2. All right, let's reset the clock. In 1 minute, Noah, which movie should win tonight's bracket?
Oh, if I'm being objective, I think this could go either way. But my personal preference is, of course, to Spider-Man 2. Everything that I said about Spider-Verse holds up. I think it's a great movie. I won't be heartbroken if it wins. But I think the themes in Spider-Man 2 are stronger and they speak more to me personally. I think a lot of people found something fresh to identify with Miles Morales' story. And so a lot of a new generation of Spider-Man fans and Spider-Man fans who have never connected with the character like they have before are coming in with Spider-Verse. And so I think I will understand if Spider-Verse wins, but Spider-Man 2 is the superior movie. I feel it's a fantastic film. The themes are super strong. Doc Ock knocks it out of the park. Tobey Maguire is a great actor. I don't know what Adam's talking about, and I think it's the superior movie.
All right, well, it's really not up to us. It's up to the people. The people decide which one is going to win the night. So, ladies and gentlemen, it has come down to this. You get to decide who you are deciding is the best Spider-Man film. Well, actually second place, because Homecoming's the best, but now we're going to decide the other ones, which one you guys think is the best. If you want to vote for Into the Spider-Verse, vote 1. If you want to vote Spider-Man 2, vote 2. Oh, guys, I don't know, man. I think I still got to go Spider-Verse. I'm a sucker for animation, and look, I know that my favorite Spider-Man movie is a live action, and there's a lot of good live action movies. But this one just like blew me out of the park, and the way they were able to do the Spider-Verse in general and bring in all sorts of other stuff. Like, we didn't even talk about Peter Porker. Peter Porker is a hilarious character. And what's his name? I want to say Keanu Reeves, but it's not Keanu Reeves. What's his name? God, shit.
The actor who plays Peter Porker?
No.
It's John Mulaney.
No. Not John Mulaney. Nick Cage. Thank you, Curtis.
Nick Cage.
Nick Cage crushed it, right? We're in a Nick Cage-assance, I think. Sort of. We'll see when National Treasure 3 comes out. But he crushed it in this movie. He didn't play it over the top. I mean, just all the ancillary characters in this really made this movie for me. I absolutely love this movie. I made my kids watch it, and my kids love this. It's for all ages. I'm not showing my kids Spider-Man 2 until they're older. It really has no bearing on this voting, though. I just wanted to throw that out there. I don't know why. 54% of the vote, man. This was a super tight race, but with just slightly over the edge, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse making its way to the finals and taking the crown. Let's see the path it took. It crushed Spider-Man 3. It crushed Spider-Man and it crushed Spider-Man 2. This is a fan favorite, man. I mean, I guess this was, you know, gonna happen all along because it was a steamroller for this movie. Noah, you said you would be okay with this. You have that if it won, or do you still feel that way? That Into the Spider-Verse is our winner tonight?
Yeah, I am. I do wish Spider-Man 2. I'm a little disappointed Spider-Man 2 didn't win, but overall, I think everything we've said about Spider-Verse is true.
Yeah,
I think it deserves all the love that it gets, and Spider-Man 2 is on. I don't think it's gonna get better with time. I think Spider-Verse might. So.
Yeah, that's true. Gavin, like, yeah, look, you're a big Spider-Man 2 fan. I'm not going to ask you to give love for Into the Spider-Verse because I know you're so hardcore Spider-Man 2, but I'll ask you, I'll bounce off what Noah said. Are you concerned at all about this classic movie, you know, degrading over time? Is that possible for this, or is this a classic forever and ever?
I think for me, it'll hold up no matter what. I mean, I've watched it probably every month or so that I can remember for the past forever.
20 years.
I put it on whenever I get a chance.
Right.
But I do like Spider-Verse a lot. If there was one movie on this list that I would like to see, or that I'd be okay with winning over Spider-Man 2, Spider-Verse was that movie.
Yeah.
It's just too good. But Spider-Man 2, I think, will always be a classic for me. I don't see it going down anytime soon.
And you know what? Mike Porter in the chat here says Spider-Man the character wins tonight. I think he's right about that. No matter which Spider-Man you love, this one or that one, Spider-Man, we all love Spider-Man. Except for Spider-Man 3 and the Amazing Spider-Man 2. If any of these would have won, I would have been happy. So kudos to everyone voting. Gentlemen, your first time. I hope we treated you well. I hope it wasn't too rough on you. You guys crushed it tonight. It was excellent. I loved your knowledge and your debating tonight. Gavin, let's start with you. Why don't you go ahead and tell the people what you got going on and everything going on in your new YouTube channel?
Yeah, I mean, I do movie-related content. Also, I'm going to start doing more reviews, I think, the next coming week or so. But lately I've done a lot of video essays, tier lists, stuff like that. So really just mostly superhero stuff so far, but I'm looking to branch out into more just film in general.
Awesome. Very good. And Noah, man, Neat on the Rocks on Twitch superstar, going to be a Twitch partner within a year. Why don't you let everyone know what you got going on?
Yeah, so I what you call like a content creator. We talk all about making better YouTube videos, making better Twitch streams, making better content in general, getting out there and posting stuff, because I know it's usually self-doubt that keeps us from making stuff. So I want to inspire people to make their best stuff, and occasionally on our Twitch streams, the three of us get into debates about movies. So if you want to join in, it's every Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday in the American evenings. So,
and definitely, guys, all their links and for social media and for YouTube and Twitch, everything down below in the description. So be sure to sub to all these or follow on Twitch for sure. So, gentlemen, thank you so much for hanging out tonight. This has been a blast. I appreciate both of you, and thank you again for coming on tonight and talking Spider-Man with me.
Thank you for having us.
Of course. Yeah, it's a fun time.
All right, that's it, guys. We're done. You guys voted Into the Spider-Verse as your #1 film. Thank you all for hanging out. Remember, we're not here next week, but we are back in 2 weeks, and I will let you know. Follow me on Twitter, and I will let you know exactly which one we're doing. Okay, talk to you later.